Text appears on a black screen. ADA30 Lead On presents Black Future Month, Legacy, Present, and Afrofuturism. Next to the words lies an illustration depicting a figure inside an image of a powerful clenched fist. Text. ADA30 Lead On, Black Future Month presents The Art of Kennedy Nganga. Text. Different colors, one people. Kennedy Nganga. Created to bring awareness that every person should be seen above color or race and for their many dimensions, this is a geodesic expressionism and impressionism design. The background lines crisscross the painting in all directions, creating pockets of every color of the rainbow. A woman's face looking to the east is centered in the crossing pockets of color. Her headband of blue and green has metal studs placed evenly across. Just to the right of her head are 5 circles of yellow, purple, and black.
One text rests next to a photo of Ray Charles and a photo of Maya Angelou. Black disabled representation in media. A graphic appears on a black screen. Tamika, discussion/disability. A prism of colors fills the background behind Tamika. Conversation/culture. Film reels flank a graphic title. Tamika Sitchenspruce, interview with Daryl Chill Mitchell. In a video chat, Tamika appears alongside an insert of a man who signs ASL.
What made you go into film and media? Just, share with us a little bit.
I started out doing talent shows, plays in school, and then I got into a rap group called the Chaos Crew. And that consists of, believe it or not, another guy from Long Island by the name of Rakim, who was one of the most prolific rappers of all times, right? In my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, legend.
And we started from there, and then I got into my own group, which was Groove Be Chill. And we got signed to Uptown Records with Andre Harrell, which consists of Heavy D and the Boys, Mary J. Blige, Jeff Redd, Jodeci, Father MC, Christopher Williams, not to name a few. And from there, the Hudlin brothers, Reggie and Warrington Hudlin, was directing video. So when we met them, it kind of took a liking to us. And they inked out a movie and put us in the movie. And the movie was House Party. And from there, I came to film and television by way of music, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started with music, and by meeting them, they wrote a movie and put us in it. And the movie took off, and I was a breakout character. And everybody the crazy thing is, most people were looking for me, which they thought I was a comedian. They didn't know I was a rapper. They thought I was a young, new black comedian. So when they asked me, are you still doing comedy? I would say yes.
So as we talk about, because today, we're, this discussion is about Black disabled, representation in media. And so as far as with, going back to characters, on TV and such, how many, African-American characters you can count on your finger who has a disability?
Me. I mean, and it's sad to say. I mean, we check. I'm like the only black actor in the wheelchair on television.
Yeah.
And I'm not proud to say that.
Yeah. So why do you think that is?
Because it's 2 parts. One, we gotta force their hand to recognize that we are here. And in all aspects, it was just like with black film and black television. There was a time when there was no blacks on TV, period. I remember watching a movie a prison movie, and all the extras was white. Not one black prisoner. So, that it's the same it's the same fight. You know, it's just a different war, but it's the same fight. We got to force their hand. We got to make the world know that we're here.
Yeah.
And the best now with social media, that's why it's called social. An impact can be made. It can be made.
You know, how can we create more stories of Black disabled people and
Well,
families?
can I ask you this? Have you done any projects with that doesn't highlight people with disabilities? Or you just focus on people with disabilities?
Yeah. So for right now, it's the next couple projects is specifically disabled, but I'm not going to limit it to just that. But it's
Okay.
kind of like right now.
Because I mean, it is a business. We got to remember that it's a business, and,
Yeah.
and their objective is to, you know, the thing about it is, if all America want to see is dogs on TV, and they're gonna watch the dogs, and they're gonna stay there to watch commercials, they'll take everybody off TV, and they'll just have dogs. Because the bottom line is, that's the thing, it's a business, and that's their whole objective, is to sell. So we got to show value in who we are. They got to see that. And I, you know, one thing I got to give it to Toyota, because I seen where they had a van that they actually had a ramp. The kid was going to soccer practice, and their mother pulled up, but they never let you know that it was a van for disability. And the van pulled up, the door opened up, the ramp came out, and the kid rolled out. But that's because Toyota is saying, look, you know what? I recognize these people. These people spend money. And I'm going to recognize, I'm going to acknowledge that in my advertisement. Because that's what it all boils down to, especially television. Advertisement. That's what it boils. If people did not want to see me on television and had a problem with it, they would write the network, and the network would have got rid of it. All right, well, the wheelchair, they don't want to see that. The bottom line is, we got to let them know from both ends, because the fact is, see, they got to know, we got to force their hand, and we got to do the work. We got to do the work.
A title, Tamika Sitchin-Spruce. Interview with Diana Elizabeth Jordan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Tamika Sitchin-Spruce, and I am a disability justice activist and filmmaker from Detroit, Michigan. And I have here Diana, and so really happy to have her today. So we'll be discussing Black disabled representation and how to make workplaces inclusive to people with disabilities. So thank you, Diana, for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Yes. So, Diana, before I start with the questions, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hello. I'm Diana Elizabeth Jordan. I'm an actor. I am a solo artist, a theater and filmmaker, a disability influencer, and an artist educator. I've been working for about 30 plus years. I started when I was 2. And in the industry, but I've worked in film and television. I've directed theater and film. I've known I wanted to do this. I always say to dream big on the swing. That's the name of my production company, because when I was a little girl, I would sit in my backyard and dream about moving to California. I grew up in the Midwest. And I also run an entertainment production company, the Rainbow Butterfly Cafe, which uses performances and specific workshops to eradicate ableism, racism, celebrate the disability experience.
But can you share some of the successes that you've had? You touched the idea.
Yeah, I mean, I would say doing the SWAT, is a great success, just because I always say any role I book is a success, because for any role, unless you're anything I'm offered is a success. But for a role, you realize that when there are submissions, then you submit or your team. I have a wonderful dream team that my agent and manager, I call my wonderful dream team. When you submit something, they may get 1,000, especially now with electronic submission, because we don't mail in anymore. Everything's electronic. So a casting director might get 1,000 submissions for one role, or 500 submissions for one role, and maybe call in 50 of those 500. So just to get the audition to me is a success, because not everything that I get submitted for do I get called in for, but it could be in numerous reasons. So to me, just to get considered is a success. And then after that, when I book it, and again, I'm realistic, actors are used to not rejected, but I know that when I'm auditioning, there's 100 other people that might be reading for that particular role. So I've learned to say, hey, they get a chance to see what I have to offer. And I think when you look at it, if I'm offering you this is what I can bring to this role, but then learning what I can control and what I can't. I can control what I bring to the role, but then you have to let it go, because that's what will kind of eat up at you and eat up at your psyche, and that can be really, really challenging, and it's challenging for me, but I continue to do it because I love it.
Yeah. See what you're saying. Yeah, that's very anxious, and you have to have thick skin too,
Mm-hmm.
because I know people can be mean and rude sometimes. It's like,
And I think you need to have your support team so that when someone said something to you, I think it's really choosing. I always say choose a team that loves you, listens, moves you, listens, understands, validates you, and gives you empathy. And, not everyone can do that. Not everyone needs to be on your support team, because some people will say, well, I told you it's hard. And they may not mean to be mean, but that may not be what you want to hear right now. So I have certain people, when I'm going through that downtime, those are the people I reach out to, because I don't need to hear, well, it's hard. It's like, yes, I know it's hard. Sometimes you need to say what you want to say. I just need to vent right now. Can I vent?
yeah,
I don't want you to say anything. I just need to vent. And,
yeah.
kind of discerning who are the people on your team that are gonna let you do that, and not everyone that has to be that person on your team.
So what do you say to, an artist, a creator who has invisible disabilities in their, they might have autism, or they might have, a chronic illness or a mental health issue or challenge, and so they afraid to be outed per se, or afraid to ask for accommodations on set. What do you say to those people?
I'm really, really sensitive when it comes to answering that question, because my disability is so much more visible. I do have mental health issues which are more invisible, and I think it's really, really individual. I think I would say you have the right to ask for reasonable accommodations. Yeah, that is your right. That is your legal right to ask for a reasonable accommodation. But I understand the fear, and I think it's just really assessing the situation, And whether you feel, let me repeat that, whether you feel asking for the accommodation is, how will that support you better in having it and doing your job? And I remember when I was in graduate school, for example, we were doing this show where we were like crawling under the ground or whatever. So they built these ladders, and what we were supposed to do was come up the ladder, push ourselves onto the stage like that. And I didn't have the arm strength to do that. I walk, but I don't have strong arm strength to like really push myself the way we were required. So I said something. So the set designer designed every ladder to come all the way up to the top. And all the other actors, were able to fake it, were able to do it where because the ladder came to the top, I didn't have to struggle, but I asked for that accommodation because it would not have been possible for me to do my job in that show if I hadn't had that accommodation. I would ask to jump for me in heels because that's the accommodation I need so I feel safer to do my job. So again, I think if you need this accommodation to do your job to the best of your ability, then you have the right to ask for it, and I think you should ask for it. However, I am sensitive to the fears and concerns, and it's really individual, but I always think you should just be as honest and authentic as you are, no matter what. So that's my long-winded answer, but I think it can be a complicated situation, and I'm very sensitive to that. But always ask.
A title, Tamika Sitchin-Spruce. Interview with Kia Brown.
So, hello, everyone. Today, my name is Tamika Sitchin-Spruce, and I'm a filmmaker and disability justice activist from Detroit. And I'm here today with Kia Brown. We're going to be talking about Black disabled representation in media and also how to make workplaces inclusive. So thank you, Kia, for meeting with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Yes. So I'm going to get right to it. So if you can, first introduce yourself, and your background for the audience.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Kia. I am a journalist, screenwriter, actress. I try to do a bit of everything. I'm an author. I wrote the book, The Pretty One, on life, pop culture, disability, and other reasons to fall in love with me, which is available for purchase now. I'm a writer. I'm a creative. I like to create things and find new ways to tell stories, whether that's my own stories or stories that I create.
Definitely true. And I know you as a journalist, how many people with disabilities are journalists?
I'm sure the number is way higher than I'm thinking. But I think in terms of people that I know, I would say maybe like that I know personally or even online, I'd say like 15, 20. But I know that there are more disabled journalists out there. I just know that the ones that I know are even people who are just writers. It's a small group of us. And I think that just goes to show because like we're not getting the same opportunities that non-disabled people get in journalism jobs. Like it's illegal, but I often find that when I was just starting out trying to get into a newsroom, the calls would stop as soon as I disclosed that I was disabled. And like before the pandemic, it was like remote work wasn't possible. You had to be in the office. You had to be able to do X, Y, and Z thing. And then the minute that non-disabled people needed accommodations, they were made. And I think for me as a freelancer, I was able to freelance online because I was literally given no other opportunity to do it. I wasn't able to be in a newsroom. Nobody seemed to want me, or they would talk to me first, and then again I would disclose and it would be an issue. Or it would just be complete silence. I'd hear nothing else.
I could definitely relate to that because my bachelor's degree is actually in journalism.
Same.
And so from Oakland University, which is here in Michigan. And so I, studied broadcast journalism. And that was one of the things that the teacher told me, like, so it's like inquiry, with news, if I could be, a news, work in a newsroom and stuff. He's like, well, I don't think you'd be able to be a reporter. You know what I'm saying? And that's the only way you could get to like the desk, anchor desk. You first have to be a beat reporter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, well, you're not going to be able to do it. So the only thing I guess I could have done is like producing or news reading. But even then, like you said, there is a lot of discrimination. So yeah, it's
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have my bachelor's degree in journalism as well from the State University of New York at Fredonia, which is like 2 hours or so from my hometown. And we just don't still have those opportunities that we deserve. It's like these places and these organizations believe that because we're disabled, we inherently couldn't possibly do it. We're too much of a hassle, it costs too much, et cetera, et cetera. But I find that what I learned in this pandemic is that anything is possible, and that it's very clear that all of these things that they said were impossible, like remote work or accommodations, they're being made for people who aren't disabled because they needed them. And it's frustrating because I think there are so many ways to tell stories, and I love journalism very much. But I am frustrated by the idea that because I'm disabled, I'm supposed to be able to do less, or I get less opportunities because I'm disabled. And it's like, I don't want disability to always be looked at as a damning factor, because it's not. It's just a lived reality. Like, I'm not horrified at the idea of disability. I'm not somehow less than because I'm disabled. Like, let me tell stories too. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm open to like transitioning from journalism into my other dreams, because at least with those dreams, it's not like I'm being held at roadblocks completely. There's still going to be roadblocks along the way, but it's not a same complete cutting off that journalism is. It's like either you can do X, Y, or Z, or you can't, because the gatekeeping is exhausting, I find, in journalism. And then when we do get to write, it's like if it's not intrinsically tied to disability, no one's interested. I have other interests as well. And so for me, writing the book even was a place for me to be able to talk about the things that I wanted to talk about but couldn't talk about in freelance work because it wasn't intrinsically tied to my being disabled.
So tell us a little bit of your successes, and because you already kind of talked about your barriers, but what are some successes that you've had as a person in the media?
I've been very blessed in my career in terms of like being able to do a TED Talk. I've published in Marie Claire UK, Teen Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, the New York Times. That was such a dream come true. I've published in Cherry Picks. I've talked about music and food and representation in media, and I have some really cool things in the works. Like I've done cover stories. I've done a lot of things that I never thought were possible. And then, I've made some really great friends along the way who support me in a way that I never would have imagined. But yeah, I've been very blessed in my career in terms of just being able to write about the things that matter to me and that I think can also give people a perspective they weren't necessarily keen to beforehand. And I wrote a book, and that I'm also very proud of. And I have another one coming out next year. It's a picture book called Sam Supersedes Via Cochlea. And it's just me being a journalist and being in media and having the ability to parlay one thing into the other. Like my love for conversation and being nosy led me to journalism. And then my journalism led me to writing my first book of essays. And that book of essays led me to writing a children's book. And then, I just made connections with people on the internet who believed in me and believed in the work. And I've been able to write things that I never would have thought possible. I've written for Glamour and Allure, and it's wild to me particularly to see that the work that I've written has also led me to be written about. Having the like this interview, having the tables turned. I'm so used to doing the interviewing that to be interviewed and to be celebrated is really nice, because I never thought that was going to be my reality too. So I've been very much blessed in the work that I've been able to do, for sure.
Yeah. That's great, and I think that's a great message to send. About Black disabled, representation, in media. It's just you just like the tip is you say, just tell your story. You belong. And you can make it happen. Just put yourself out there.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. I fully agree. That's exactly what I said. Like, you just have to believe, like I always say to myself, sometimes even if you don't believe in yourself, you got to believe in the work that you're creating. Because if you don't believe in the work, nobody else is going to. And long before I ever believed in myself, I believed in my work. And I think that I belong in any room that I want to be in. And that if I'm going to work hard for the things that matter to me, I'm going to do it whether I hear a no or a yes or a maybe, because at the end of the day, you can only tell the story you want to tell how you can tell it. There's nobody who's going to tell a story your story the way that you can tell it. And I think that it's just about you fighting for your own place, fighting for, I think it used to be so long that I was so desperate for a seat at the table. But now I'm at a place where I'm like, I want to be in the room where these things happen, but I want to do it on terms that I can be proud of, in ways that will let me sleep at night, in ways that will make me feel fulfilled and excited about the things that I'm creating. And the right people will get on board.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. And so that sounds really good. So if people want to, learn more about what you're doing, or what are you doing next? Like, as far as how we can support you.
Any cool things. A lot of it I can't talk about, but things that I can talk about again are the book that's coming out next year, which is the children's book called Sam Supersedes. I've got some great freelance stuff in the works. And if you want to learn more about the work that I've already done, that's like on my website is KeaBrown.com. That's KeaHBrown.com. And then you can follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Keah, KEAH_Maria, MARIA. All of my stuff that's coming out or is already out will be there. There will be tons of details about where you can buy my books and like my future, and you can read my future articles and all of that fun stuff.
A title, Tamika Sitchin-Spruce, interview with Dr. Donna Walton.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tamika Sitchin-Spruce. I am a disability justice activist and filmmaker from Detroit. And I'm here today with the wonderful Dr. Donna Walton, who will introduce herself. But we're here today to discuss Black disabled representation in media and how to make workplaces accessible. So welcome, Dr. Walton.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here today. So I've been looking forward to this interview for several reasons. So just to give you a little bit of background about myself. So I look at myself as an author, an activist, an actor. And a detail about my life is that I happen also to be a woman with a disability. I'm an amputee over 43 years. And throughout that whole experience of once I became disabled, if you will. I use that to sort of parlay my experience, my personal experience, into a professional experience, and worked in the area of disability policy for over 20 years. Moving fast forward, sort of combined all of my professional and professional experiences and creative experiences and advocacy, and came up with the Divas with Disabilities Project. So the Divas with Disabilities Project is now my new found joy. It's a nonprofit organization aimed to amplify the images of Black and Brown women with disabilities in mass media.
Yes, yes, yes. So speaking of, creating divas with disabilities, growing up, have you seen fictional characters in TV shows or movies who you can relate to, whether it's you or your family?
That's an interesting question, because just recently there was a sermon given by this Reverend Dr. Howard John Wesley, who he was teaching about genealogy in the Bible, and he was relating to his story to the Cosby Show, which we all probably know. It aired in the 80s, and he shared how great this show was, and that it was groundbreaking because it showed Black family at its best. So in my early years, when I viewed the Huxtables, I suppose I looked at the Huxtables as a fictional family, because there were no other shows on TV that cast the Black family in that light. But I could relate, even though my family and others did not mirror the Huxtables. The show gave me hope. The Cosby Show gave me hope, because I saw myself in Sandra Huxtable, a graduate of an Ivy League school and becoming successful. So she was the fictional character, if you will, that gave me somewhat she didn't have a disability. But my aspiration, I would say, came from that show, that family, that whole idea that, you can be successful and you can be a part of society and contribute in great ways, that you don't have to have the same narrative that most Black shows at the time were showing.
Yeah. I remember the Cosby, and I remember the spinoff from A Different World and stuff. So that's what I used to watch as a kid. So
yeah, and the nice thing about that show was that, like you said, that show was the sort of entree to other shows that showed Black casted television, actors, or that cast Black actors. Like, remember the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Martin, Living Single, Family Matters. And even now today's show, of course, Blackish, they were all ushered in by the Cosby Show. The Cosby Show was a great foundation. So, in all of those shows, I suppose, especially Living Single, I know that I saw myself in those women.
Oh, yeah, I remember that show.
Yeah.
It's fun. All of that, yes. So if we talk about today, when it comes to African American characters with disabilities, can you count on your fingers how many of those characters that you see? If you could count less than 10 figures, why do you think that is?
Well, regrettably, I can count on my fingers the number of African American characters with a visible disability. Now, there are many, more than 10, of non-disabled Black actors that we don't really see them, or we do see them, I should say, but we don't see their disabilities. So their representation it does not come forth as a disabled individual, because, of course, their disability is non-visible. So I can't say that there is one single reason why I don't see African-American characters with a disability on big screens and small screens, but I can say that we don't have to look far to understand why. Who's casting? Who's doing the casting? Who are the producers? Who are the showrunners? we have to ask, what roles do universities and colleges play in recruitment of African Americans with disabilities to their, to theater and acting schools? And then who's feeding the talent pool? I always think about that when we think about the reasons why we're not present, we're not visible. It's who's looking for us. How is the environment or the spaces made accessible for us to even enter? I don't know if you've probably read this report recently, but it's been getting a lot of buzz. A woman named Stacy Smith at the University of Southern California's Annenberg School of Communication. She analyzed this diversity within Netflix. And interestingly, she basically, I think I even wrote it down. She said characters with disabilities accounted for just 5.3% of leads and 4.7% of the main cast in film and series on Netflix. And then she said when speaking characters were factored in, only 2.1% had disabilities. So, and this is far short, of course, this is a far short, I guess, reflection of the 27.2% of the population who have disabilities. But think about what I just said, is that I talked about disabilities in general. We haven't even narrowed that down or distilled that number down, or the statistic down, to Black individuals with disabilities.
Yes. So, so anybody who's watching who may be part of media, what are some ways media can be more inclusive to people with disabilities at the workplace?
That's a great question too. So I think that all workplace should have a communication plan, right? Have a way by which they are intentional about communicating with persons with disabilities. So having a communication plan, avoiding, and in that communication plan, right, it's a part of, that is talking about, avoiding ableist language. Ableism is very real. And unfortunately, people with non-disabled individuals are not even aware of their biases, and they're just, and their sort of disparaging language towards disabled people, or their behavior sometimes that they're not even aware of it. So I think a strong communication plan would be very valuable. Planning for ASL and CART services to always be a part of events. Always having a plan whereby you have a way of making alternative formats available. The site design, like your place of work. What are the barriers? I mean, I always say from entry to exit, you should do some type of survey of what your space looks like and who may be entering your space and who can access it and who cannot, and then get things done around that. And I think another one is really important, is just have a designated person who can address reasonable accommodations. I mean, that was one of the pieces that I really liked. I had a great experience working with Nuance Entertainment because we were always aware, both Ricky and Ashley were both very acutely aware that I would have some access needs, and they made sure that those things were addressed. Say, for example, we were on location. We did a shoot in the Poconos. And they ensured, something is making sure that my room was on the first level and not, up a case of stairs, right? So that was really important. So I think that, most importantly, have a communication plan and be aware that your environment, is accessible.
Thanks to our sponsors, Comcast, NBC Universal, Telemundo, Facebook, and Sony Pictures. From all of us at ADA30 Lead On Productions presents Black Future Month, Legacy, Present, and Afrofuturism.
Executive producers Keith Jones, J.D. Michaels, Terry Hardman Squire, Danny Woodburn. Co-producer, Tamika Sitchin-Spruce. Artistic coordinator, Safia Eshe Jassi. Post-production supervisor, Trelonda Lowe. Editors, Trelonda Lowe, J.D. Michaels, Keith Jones, Tamika Sitchin-Spruce, Safia Eshe Jassi. Tamika's interviews, Black Disabled Representation in Media. Tamika Sitchin-Spruce, host. Jerron Gilchrist, ASL interpreter. Daryl Chill Mitchell, NCIS New Orleans. Diana Elizabeth Jordan, actor, dreaming big on a swing entertainment. Kia Brown, actress, actor, and journalist. Donna Walton, author, speaker, and founder of the Divas with Disabilities Project. Visual artist, Kennedy Nganga. The full end credits can be found at the Lead on ADA.org website.
ADA Lead On Productions Mission Statement by Keith Jones and Leroy Moore. ADA30 Lead On was established for the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Our goal is to continue to bring recognition to the history, impact, and purpose of the ADA through celebrations of diverse, disabled artists, innovators, and advocates, and their allies. At this time in our nation's collective conscience, we are asked to confront harsh realities that are residual echoes of the American dream. As in every social justice movement in this nation, the disability rights movement was born out of the unfulfilled parts of America's potential and its unrealized and inaccessible dream. Whether it be for suffragists, freedom riders, Stonewall rioters, feminists, each arose as response and appeal to the nation. Do better. Be better. However, even in those moments, the rules of ableism and racism were and are quite prevalent. That simple truth is what makes these ADA Lead On celebrations and productions even more significant. Visit us at leadonada.org. Check out ADA30 Lead On and Indeem Productions that have reached over 90,326 people with 112,229 impressions. And visit the creators celebrated in this production and more from the Black disability community at their new home, Black black-future-month.org.